Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Raina Moe's Designs. Today is day 3 of MoeVember, and I'm hoping today to answer a lot of questions and to talk about what's been going on with my health as far as my parathyroids are concerned. And the reason why I want to do this is because when I was researching before I had the surgery, there really wasn't much information. The information that I found online and as far as videos were concerned seemed like it was more for people who were professional singers or people who had to use their voice after having the surgery, and they only had to have 1 or 2 of the 4 that we're all born with, or that we're all supposed to be born with, of their parathyroids removed, so they had their own tissue to continue making them better and what have you. And my situation, my journey was totally different. So I wanted to share that with you guys. But first I would like to say, if you're new here and you're watching this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. We're a very loving community here of DIYs and some hauls, some beauty, Dollar Tree, always Dollar Tree, whether we're doing crafts or just hauls of Dollar Tree. And we'll be introducing some other things like luxury hauls and things of that nature, things that I'm in, being a happy homemaker, whether you're someone's wife or significant other, teaching you how to cook, teaching you how to prepare, basically what it takes to be in a relationship and make it work. Because I know they don't teach a lot of these skills anymore in school, you know. That's kind of what my channel is about now, because it's grown from its initial hauls and DIY crafts. So if that interests you, please consider subscribing. If you know someone that could use any of the information that I impart, please share the video, and I'll always ask you to like it, give it a thumbs up if you actually are enjoying the content and the information that I share. In this past March of 2022, I had to have parathyroid surgery. I had been on a quest to kind of figure out why I was not feeling so well. So I went and met with an endocrinologist because my blood sugars had been being high and I knew I needed to get it under control. So I met a doctor, an endocrinologist, wonderful endocrinologist here in Tomball. And with his help, within 3 months, we got my blood sugar, my A1Cs, down to 5.5 from it was 8 point something. That's high. And in 3 months, he was able to get it down with the diet, exercise, and mostly the medications that he had put me on. Well, when you're doing blood work every 3 months, you can see everything that's going on. And he noticed that I had high calcium levels in my blood. And it was really high. So once my A1C came back and I was in normal ranges, he says, you know, you really need to see an ENT. Your calcium levels are staying high. And you probably have a tumor or 2. And so he had done an ultrasound in his office and he checked my thyroid because I do suffer with hypothyroidism. I have for the past 18 years. Yeah, the past 18 years I've suffered with hypothyroidism. So he checked my thyroid in the office with the ultrasound and he saw where I had cysts on my thyroid and something else that looked a little funny. So anyway, I found an ENT here in Houston, Texas, in the medical center, and he also did ultrasound in the office and he looked at my parathyroids. He also saw my thyroid and he was like, yeah, you have at least 2 tumors, you know. And so they had to go in and take them out and then test them for a biopsy to make sure that they were not cancerous or to see if they were cancerous. So in March, I actually went and had the surgery, and I kind of did a little shorts. I think that's what they call it here, where I was right after coming out of the operating room and into, I think I was still in one of the recovery rooms.
Hey, my crafty kings and queens. As you can see, I'm in the hospital.
After coming out of the operating room and into, I think I was still in one of the recovery rooms. And my scar is here. And where they had the port, I can feel just a tiny little keloid, just really small there, but it'll heal very, very well. I'm thankful that I don't scar and keloid really, really badly like some people do. But anyway, when he got in there, he saw, and this is the ENT, everybody is born with 4 parathyroids. They're small little glands alongside your vocal cord, behind your thyroid, which sits here up at the front of your vocal cord in your neck, right? And so the parathyroids are back. So the only way they can get there is through the front and move things around a little bit, and then they can get in there, right? And they have to put a special scope down. The tube is a little bit bigger than a regular ET breathing tube, because they have a balloon and it has to inflate it and kind of make everything a little bit bigger so they can see what they're doing. So anyway, I was born with only 3 parathyroids because he could only find 3. And all 3 that he found were tumorous. So he had to take them all out. They were sent for biopsy, and thank Jehovah they were not cancerous. But your parathyroid regulates calcium in your body. That calcium affects your heart rate. It affects your nervous system. Calcium is a very important supplement besides just your hair, skin, nails, teeth, bones, what have you. They all, benefit from calcium. But so does your nerves in your nervous system, right? Along with other things. So, if I was only born with 3, and all 3 were cancerous and had to be removed, you would wonder, how was I gonna function with no calcium? Well, they were able to take a little tissue from what they had to remove and transplant that back into my neck. Okay, so after this surgery, when I woke up, and I have a high tolerance for pain, it was extremely painful. And, I feel like, and this is another reason why when we have that conversation where you have to manage your doctors, you really do. But this is one of the times where, even though I'm a nurse, the doctor's aware that I'm a nurse. And I asked for the pain medication that I wanted because it works for me, and it's not a narcotic, and it's not an opiate. It is an NSAID, but it's not one you can buy over the counter. It's called Toradol. I wanted Toradol because it takes care of the inflammation.
As you can see, I have a drain coming out of my neck. I just had parathyroid surgery. I'm in the recovery room. I'm actually at a point where I'm awake enough and comfortable enough to speak to you all. And I know this is going to be a huge shock. And I'll talk to you guys about it later. I just wanted to document how I felt right after surgery. And I tell you, it's been not horrible, but the pain was intolerable initially, and I'm going to go through all of that with you guys a little bit later, but I just want to tell you something and touch on what we talked about before in our last health check. You have to be your own advocate. Everybody's tolerance to pain is different and how they receive it. And I know I'm looking really pale, but you guys have to realize that this might be TMI, but I'm just barely finishing my monthly, and I'm a heavy bleeder, so I'm probably anemic. That's probably why I'm so pale looking. But anyway, like I was saying, you really have to be your own advocate, because, you know, being a nurse, having that experience and seeing what medications can do to a person if you're in a lot of pain, surgical pain. You have to think about what's causing the pain. You have been cut, which traumatizes, you know, your tissues. So the body's natural response is to protect it, so they send out all of the white blood cells, and then you have other enzymes, hormones that kind of go to that area, you know, to help heal. Well, that causes inflammation. So if you happen to have a surgery coming up, make sure that they give you something for inflammation to go alongside the pain medication. That way your recovery will be a lot smoother. You won't have as much pain because you're really helping the body do what it needs to do. So I'll explain exactly what it is that they did probably when I get discharged from the hospital, but I just kind of wanted to step on here and give you guys, you know, well, really just document hours after surgery how I was doing. Okay, I love y'all. Bye.
Think about it. When a person's having surgery or a person is in pain, and you know that pain is related to inflammation, like from trauma, injury, or just from a chronic disabling process, you know, like arthritis and such. If you take care of the inflammation, you really don't hurt. You really don't have very much pain. If you have any, then something simple like maybe a little Norco or something like that could actually be more beneficial than something stronger, right? So that's what I asked the doctor for. Well, he did finally give it to me. And the nurse also gave me pain medication. When I first got out of surgery, she gave me pain medication because I was hurting so bad, but it didn't help. So I asked for the Toradol. After like 4 hours, finally the doctor decided to give it to me. And I had absolutely no pain after that, right? So hours later, when there's finally a bed for me and I go to the room that they have for me, this is probably about 10 hours later. Well, that medication is worn off and I asked for the Toradol again. And the nurse asked the doctor, you know, obviously could I have it? Would he write for it? Because he only gave me the one-time dose, right? And he refused to give it to me. And he had his reasons. He refused to give it to me because although it is a great pain reliever, it thins your blood and it can cause you to bleed more than you should, right? Now, knowing that and knowing what I dealt with after the surgery, it kind of just makes me ask a few questions, and we'll get into that later. But anyway, they did give me some like ibuprofen type medications and Tylenol, which helped a little, but it didn't take away all of my pain, but I tolerated it because I didn't have a choice, right? So I stayed overnight. My first nurse, I only had her while I was in the recovery room. The second nurse, her shift ended at 7, and I got in my room around 6:45-ish, so I didn't have her very long, right? And that was an African-American nurse. and I was so cold. I kept telling her that I was cold. I was cold. So she had a CNA come in and bring me a blanket, right? So I'm in and out of sleep because that's how I tolerate a lot of things. I deal with pain, I deal with depression, I deal with sadness, frustration by sleeping. That's what I do. I've always done that as a young child. So when the second nurse came in, and she was a Filipino nurse, when the second nurse came in, she kept saying, "Why are you so pale? You look so pale." She was attentive, but it was real quick in and out, right? I was so pale because I was severely anemic. In all that lab work that was done, the only CBC, and CBC stands for complete blood count. The only CBC that was done back in October. When my endocrinologist was doing all that lab work, his initial lab work had everything. After we were on a treatment plan and he checked my A1C and everything, he only had labs for what he needed to treat. The ENT never thought to do his own labs. And I'm not sure why. He never checked to see what my CBC was, what my hemoglobin and hematocrit were. So we don't know how low it was before the surgery, but we know when the very first CBC was done, I was at like an 8, about an 8. I wasn't quite a 9 and I wasn't under 8. So that's considered anemic for your hemoglobin, but it's not blood transfusion worthy. The doctors are worried type of a number. Once you get to 7 or below 7, that's when they're pressuring you for blood transfusions and what have you, okay? So when this nurse kept commenting about me being so pale, and this is a nurse that's never seen me before, she doesn't know me, but she's obviously been a nurse for a very long time, to be able to notice on an African American when they look pale. Because I'm not a light-skinned African American, I'm not a really dark-skinned African American, but when we are anemic, cyanosis on us doesn't look the same of someone who is of Caucasian ethnicity. You can look at them and see their paleness. You can look and see that bluish tone to their skin. But for African Americans, that bluish tone may look grayish, may look very ashen is what they call it, right? Well, I didn't look gray. I just looked like the color was drained from my face, especially towards the center where I have the yellow undertones because my skin isn't even anyway. But I just really did look coffin ready in a different way. So I finally got up out of the bed and I went to the bathroom and I looked and I was like, wow, yeah, I guess I am really anemic. So then I looked at my JP drain. And if you don't know what a JP drain is, it's a tube that they have inside your body cavity, and then obviously for here it came out of my neck, and then there's this egg-shaped bulb at the end of it, and it's a suction bulb. So when you deflate it and then you put the pin in it, kind of shaped like a grenade, you put the pin in it, it stays in the egg shape, but it's dipped down because there's suction there. And then as the bulb continues to suck, if there's any blood or any fluids that are loose that need to be extracted from the body, then the bulb will turn right back into the egg from the suction. And then you just empty it, flatten it out, put the pin in it, and then it'll continue to do that, right? Well, so you look at it, you see what the fluids look like, and it was bloody, but it wasn't bad bloody. So it wasn't like I had an active bleed. When you look at the medical reports, it doesn't show that I lost a lot of blood, because I did not. The issue was that I was already anemic before he brought me into that OR. By the time the surgery was done and I went home the next day, that night while I was in bed with my husband, I felt like I was going to die. I felt so bad. There is no way to really explain that feeling. You just have this overwhelming feeling of doom. So I'm laying there, it's in the middle of the night. I don't want to wake Paul up, but I'm like, if I don't wake him up, he may wake up to me dead. So I gotta tell him I don't feel good. I need him to take me to the hospital. So he did. And luckily for us, we have I had my surgery at Memorial Hermann in the medical center. And where we live, there is an urgent care that is a Memorial Hermann directly down the street. So when he took me there and dropped me off, the doctors checked me out and they did a CBC and ran some other blood work because they knew that I just had surgery. I had a JP drain coming out because I just felt absolutely awful. Very, very weak. Every nerve in my body was on edge. If you can imagine, this was the feeling that I had that lingered for 3 weeks. And I'll go back to what happened at the urgent care. Everybody knows what it feels like when your extremity falls asleep. Let's say you're sitting crisscross, you sit there way too long and your leg falls asleep. So you uncrisscross and you let your leg down and the blood's just rushing and it's throbbing, right? That feeling was in my legs, my arms, this portion of my chest, all the way up to my face and my lips. Constant, all day, every day. And that's because I had no calcium. Now keep in mind, not only I'm dealing with that, I'm dealing with pain because they can't give me the pain medication that I want, right? The pain medication that they did give me, I knew it wasn't going to work for me, so I didn't bother taking it. I did take the Tylenol though. And calcium, I was constantly eating on Tums, constantly, right? Because that's what they said to do for those feelings, right? That tingly feeling never went away, never went away. It's only now that it kind of comes and goes. Every now and then, if you ever see me do crafts from here on out and you see my eyeball twitching, my eyelid twitching here or here, or my lips start to quiver a little bit when I'm speaking, it's because my calcium's low and I need to pop some more Tums, because I will be doing that for the rest of my life. And taking calcium supplementation, even though I have tissue from parathyroid implanted into my neck, because I constantly have those issues. And when it's my monthly, the issue is almost like I had the surgery again. It just gets overwhelming sometimes. And that's the reason why I haven't been doing lots of videos, that amongst other things. But we'll go on a different health journey, and that'll be a different video. But now let's get back to me going to the urgent care. The doctor there, he ran the labs and everything. He saw that I was anemic. Earlier I told you that when a patient's hemoglobin gets to a 7, that's when the doctors are like, oh, blood transfusion, blood transfusion, blood transfusion, right? My hemoglobin was a 5.5. I had that overwhelming feeling of doom and that I might not make it, because that's true. I might not have made it if I just would have stayed asleep. Well, I wasn't asleep, if I would have stayed quiet. So anyway, obviously they wanted to give me a blood transfusion. Well, I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, so therefore I don't accept blood. So their answer to that was, okay, well, you can go ahead and get iron infusions. So it took a while for me to get an iron infusion. It actually took 3 weeks. So I was walking around, staying active in the house, as active as I could, feeling that way until I could get the iron infusion, right? But my husband, being the man that he is, made me take iron pills. So I did. I ate things that were rich in iron naturally, like spinach. And when you take iron, it can constipate you, and you need vitamin C to help your body actually absorb it and use it. So I ate a lot of spinach with tomatoes. I still have that with breakfast every day. What else did I have? I think I had like a little shot of Mogan David wine. And I wish I could eat liver, but I just don't like liver, so I didn't. But I did have red meat so that I could put iron back into my body. I cooked it on the cast iron skillets, because cooking in a cast iron skillet, you get some of that iron in your diet. So just different things like that is what I did. And then finally I got the iron infusion. Well, the first iron infusion was so excruciatingly painful, and it shouldn't be. So that particular type of iron infusion just wasn't good for me. So I was supposed to get 2 of those, but I only got 1. But that was all that I needed. Jehovah always makes a way. You stay true to his word and follow what he gives us in the Bible, and everything comes out in the wash like it's supposed to, right? So no one ever figured out why I was so anemic, but the main thing is the doctor never checked my blood levels. If you're preparing for surgery, make the doctor check your blood levels. You need to know what your CBC is. You need to know. Even if you're perfectly healthy, it doesn't hurt to make them do that lab work, because you don't want to go into a surgery and then find out afterwards, oh, we have a problem. That was something that should have been done. Even my primary care doctor was shocked, because she's like, I can't believe that was not done. That's like standard practice. So make sure your doctor doesn't take any shortcuts, because it's going to hurt you in the long run. Okay? That's the main thing that I want you guys to get out of this. You do have to manage your doctor, and it doesn't matter what your credentials are. You must manage your doctor. Speak up for yourself. Because if something had gone terribly wrong, and I wasn't here today, it would hurt a lot of people. And it's all from one simple mistake. Now you guys might be thinking, well, Marina Mo, how is it that even though it was several months prior, your hemoglobin was 8.5 or 8 point whatever it was, and then on the day of surgery or right after the surgery, you were so anemic at 5.5 when you didn't bleed? I had extremely heavy menstrual periods. That was documented in my medical record. Every doctor makes you fill out all this paperwork, right? Every time you see them. And you look at all the doctors that I've been to, and it's always showed from the time I started my cycles, I've always had heavy cycles, and they've always been for a long period of time. When I was younger, it was heavy and it lasted 7 days. As I've gotten older, they last 2 to 3 weeks, and it's just been that way, right? And no, I don't have fibroids. It's just what my body does. Well, that's what it was. And because I never knew anything to be different, all these years, my whole entire life, I've been anemic. I just thought it was just cold natured. No, I've always been anemic. So, like I was saying, the main thing I want you to take from this video is you got to check your doctor. Yes, they went to school for many years. Yes, they have certain credentials, but they don't know everything. So you have to check them. You have to manage them, like Polly Bear says. You do. And you tell them, yeah, okay, we'll go ahead and do the surgery, but you're going to check my CBC. You're going to make sure that my hemoglobin and hematocrit is where it needs to be before this surgery. And I wish you all great health. And if you're not in great health, let's work this year towards getting to great health, because it's a journey. So some of the things that'll be coming up next in MoeVember will be me starting my fitness journey, which I've kind of already started. As well as I've already expressed, it's going to be crafts and such, because that's what I love to do. And a few luxury hauls, a few other hauls, and just sharing. I'll be sending polls out there, and you guys tell me what it is that you want to see, because our channel is changing and our channel is growing. And on that note, have an absolutely wonderful evening. Bye.